How does a brand built by a press-shy genius who completely reinvented haute couture become the undisputed king of viral memes and celebrity controversy? This is the story of Balenciaga's two lives. One life belongs to a man so revered, his own peers called him the master. Christian Dior said he was the master of us all, while Coco Chanel claimed he was the only couturier in the truest sense of the word. The others are simply fashion designers. And then there's the other life, the one that belongs to a brand that puts cartoon characters on the runway, sells $1,000 versions of junk you have in your house, and creates moments so bizarre they're practically designed to become memes. This is a story of wild contrasts: sculptural elegance versus streetwear hype, silent artistry versus viral noise, a creator who hid from the press versus a brand that now engineers global headlines for breakfast. Today, most people know Balenciaga for its chunky sneakers, oversized hoodies, or shocking ad campaigns. But the story of its founder is one of the most important and maybe most tragic in all of fashion history. He was a man who believed fashion was art, a philosophy, an almost religious practice of perfection. So, how did his name get attached to platform Crocs and outfits made of yellow caution tape? To get the Balenciaga of today, you first have to understand the man who started it all and the unbelievable journey his name has been on since he was gone. Section 1. The Founder's Era, the Master of Us All. Our story doesn't start in Paris, but in Guetaria, a small, humble fishing village in Spain's Basque region. This is where Cristobal Balenciaga was born in 1895. His father was a fisherman who died when he was just a boy, and his mother, Martina, was a seamstress. From his earliest years, he would sit for hours watching his mother work, completely mesmerized as she turned flat cloth into a three-dimensional form. He was soaking up the fundamentals of the craft before he could even properly read, developing an instinct for fabric and fit. This wasn't just a hobby, it was a full-blown obsession. By age 12, he was already an apprentice for a local tailor. His big break came from the most powerful woman in town, the Marquesa de Casa Torres. She saw his incredible talent, becoming his first major client and, more importantly, his patron. She knew she'd found something special and sent him to Madrid for formal training. This is a key distinction. While many of his famous contemporaries in Paris were designers who sketched ideas, Balenciaga was a couturier, a master tailor who could drape, cut, and sew an entire garment with his own hands. Unlike his peers, he famously preferred not to sketch. He believed inspiration came from the fabric itself. He would feel it, manipulate it, and let the material tell him what it wanted to be. He was a sculptor who just happened to use fabric instead of clay. His talent was undeniable. In 1917, at just 22 years old and with his patron's backing, he opened his first boutique in the chic resort city of San Sebastian. Success came instantly. He soon opened more shops in Madrid and Barcelona, becoming the go-to designer for the Spanish royal family and aristocracy. His designs were elegant, impeccably made, and quietly innovative. But his rising career in Spain was cut short by history. The Spanish Civil War broke out in the late 1930s, forcing him to close his stores. So, he made the move to the undisputed capital of the fashion world, Paris. In August 1937, he opened the House of Balenciaga at 10 Avenue George V, ready to show the world his vision. Section 2. When Balenciaga got to Paris, the city was already ruled by titans like Chanel and Schiaparelli. And yet, his very first collection was a seismic event. The French press, buyers, and wealthy clients were floored. They knew that this was something different. Starting in the 1950s, he began to completely blow up the female silhouette. In 1951, he broadened the shoulders and dropped the waistline. In 1953, he gave us the balloon jacket, a literal sphere of fabric that enveloped the upper body. Then, in 1957, came the sack dress, a garment with no waist at all, which was universally flattering and a direct rebellion against the hourglass figure. This was followed by the high-waisted baby doll dress and the elegant cocoon coat, which stood away from the body in a graceful architectural curve. These weren't just dresses. They were mobile sculptures. He created collars that stood away from the collarbone to make the neck look longer, like a swan's, and famously cut his sleeves to a bracelet length. Section 3. The Silent King's Retirement and Legacy. For 3 decades, Balenciaga was the undisputed king of couture. But by the 1960s, the world of fashion was turning on its head. The rise of youth culture, pop art, and, most threateningly to Balenciaga, the concept of prêt-à-porter or ready-to-wear changed everything. Fashion was getting faster, more commercial, and more democratic. It was a world of mass production and media hype, 2 things Cristobal absolutely hated. He saw ready-to-wear as a cheap compromise, a watering down of the art form he'd dedicated his life to. Deeply disillusioned with this new world, he made a jaw-dropping decision. In 1968, at the absolute height of his fame, he abruptly closed his couture house. No grand press release, no farewell tour. He just told his staff and walked away. His clients were heartbroken. When the news broke, Women's Wear Daily ran the headline, "The King is Dead." And for the world of high fashion, it was true. Balenciaga retired to his home in Spain and never designed again. He passed away 4 years later, in 1972. It's widely believed that he never wanted the House of Balenciaga to continue with his name under another designer. To him, only he was the author of his work, and for 14 years, that wish was respected. The House of Balenciaga lay dormant, a sleeping giant of fashion history, with its doors on Avenue George V shut tight. Section 4. The Interregnum, a brand adrift and revived. Cristobal may have put his house to sleep, but in 1986, nearly 14 years after his death, Balenciaga was brought back as a ready-to-wear line. The rights to the name were bought by the French group Jacques Bogart S.A. The brand was about to be reawakened, but the path back to relevance was going to be a long one. For years, the house just couldn't find its footing. It cycled through designers who all tried to recapture the founder's magic, but none of them could make the brand feel culturally relevant again. The name still commanded immense respect, but it felt like a relic from a bygone era, a beautiful ghost haunting the archives of fashion history. To truly bring Balenciaga back, they needed someone with a vision just as radical in his own way as Cristobal himself. That designer would arrive in 1997. Section 5. The Ghesqui&egrave Renaissance. In 1997, the house took a major gamble on a young, pretty much unknown 26-year-old designer named Nicolas Ghesqui&egrave. Ghesqui&egrave had done some freelance work for the brand before, but now he was the creative director. It was a move that would change everything. At first, he was seen as just a temporary fix for a struggling house, but his talent was impossible to ignore. He was smart enough to know he couldn't just copy Cristobal's work. Instead, he started a brilliant conversation with the archives. He took the founder's architectural shapes and obsession with new fabrics and fused them with a sharp, futuristic, and totally modern edge. He brought a new energy to the house that was part sci-fi, part streetwear, but always with a deep respect for its history. His collections were a massive critical hit, and he quickly became known as the most exciting designer of his generation. He put Balenciaga back on the map as a fashion leader, and his time there produced one of the most iconic accessories of the 21st century, the motorcycle bag. Funny enough, the brand's executives originally hated it, saying it was too soft, too light, and had no structure. Ghesqui&egrave had to fight for it, begging them to produce just a few for the models to carry in a show. Well, the bags were an instant sensation, spotted on the arms of supermodel Kate Moss and every fashion editor in town. It became the it bag of the 2000s, a must-have for celebrities like Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen and Nicole Richie. In 2001, the brand was bought by the Gucci Group, now called Kering. This gave them the cash to turn Ghesqui&egreve's critical acclaim into huge commercial success. For 15 years, Nicolas Ghesqui&egrave masterfully revived Balenciaga, making it both cool and respected. He proved the brand could thrive in the modern world. When he left in 2012, he left the house stronger than ever, setting the stage for its next and most radical transformation. Section 6. The Demna Disruption. A new era begins. If Ghesqui&egrave revived Balenciaga, his successor would detonate it. In 2015, Kering announced that Demna Ghesqui&egrave was the new creative director. The choice was shocking. Demna, a Georgian designer, was the head of a radical anti-fashion collective called Vetements. Vetements was famous for its deconstructed, oversized streetwear, holding shows in gritty places like gay clubs, and for having a deeply ironic, almost cynical take on luxury. The contrast couldn't be more extreme. Cristobal was the silent, reclusive master of couture. Demna was the disruptive bad boy of the underground. But Kering's CEO, François-Henri Pinault, saw a common thread, saying Demna had a unique approach marked by a sociological observation of the wardrobe's essentials. In Demna, they saw someone who, like Cristobal, was obsessed with the very structure of how we dress, just for a totally different generation. Demna's mission was clear: drag the historic house, kicking and screaming, into the middle of today's cultural conversation. He wasn't just interested in clothes, he was interested in what clothes mean in the age of the internet and meme culture. He knew that today, a brand's power isn't just in its craftsmanship, but in its ability to generate images, arguments, and controversy. He was about to turn Balenciaga into a global phenomenon, and not everyone was going to be happy about it. Section 7. Deconstructing Demna's Balenciaga, the key elements. Demna's vision for Balenciaga was a masterclass in modern brand building, and he did it with a few key moves that completely rewrote the brand's identity. First, he made streetwear supreme. Demna took everyday clothes and turned them into high-fashion holy grails. The best example? The Triple S sneaker. Launched in 2017, this deliberately chunky, pre-distressed sneaker was the opposite of the sleek, minimalist shoes that had dominated luxury. It was ugly, it was bold, and it was wildly expensive, and it became the single most influential sneaker of the decade, kicking off the dad shoe trend and creating an instant status symbol. He did the same thing with huge hoodies, logo t-shirts, and puffer jackets, taking the uniform of the youth, slapping the Balenciaga name on it, and selling the mundane as something aspirational. Next came the meme-ification of fashion. Demna knew the power of a viral image better than anyone. He started creating things that seemed made to be laughed at online, which, of course, only made them more famous. In 2017, the brand released a big blue leather tote bag that was a dead ringer for IKEA's 99-cent Fracta bag, except this one cost over $2,000. The internet exploded. IKEA even ran a playful ad on how to spot an original. It was free, global marketing. He followed this up with high-heeled platform Crocs, a t-shirt shirt, literally a t-shirt with another shirt sewn onto the front, and a 7-layer coat that everyone immediately compared to a scene from Friends. These weren't just products, they were jokes, conversation starters, and brilliantly engineered viral moments. This strategy spilled onto the runway. Demna turned fashion shows into immersive, high-concept experiences. For spring-summer 2020, he flooded the entire runway, creating a dark, apocalyptic vision of climate change. For fall-winter 2022, he built a giant glass snow globe and had his models trudge through a man-made blizzard, a powerful statement on war and displacement inspired by his own experience as a refugee from Georgia. Another show had models stomping through a giant pit of mud, which Demna called a metaphor for digging for truth and being down to earth. These weren't just shows, they were performance art designed to provoke and to dominate your social media feed for days. But maybe his wildest show was the one that wasn't a show at all. For spring-summer 2022, guests showed up expecting a runway. Instead, they watched a special 10-minute episode of The Simpsons, where Homer, Marge, and the whole town went to Paris to model for Balenciaga. It hilariously poked fun at the fashion industry and the brand itself, with Marge getting stuck in a doorway and Homer almost fainting at a €19,000 price tag. It was a genius move that showed the brand could laugh at itself and cemented its place in pop culture history. Finally, Demna used celebrities as his canvas. His partnership with Kim Kardashian became one of his most powerful weapons. It all peaked at the 2021 Met Gala, where Kim showed up in a head-to-toe black Balenciaga outfit that completely covered her face and body. She was recognizable only by her silhouette, a walking logo for the brand's new look. It was one of the most talked about red carpet moments ever. He also put Rihanna in a massive black couture gown and worked with Kanye West on his Donda album events. For Demna, celebrities aren't just ambassadors, they're characters in the ongoing performance of Balenciaga. With these moves, Demna didn't just sell clothes. He created a universe, a tribe, and a constant stream of content that made Balenciaga the most talked about brand in the world. He'd reached his goal, but this relentless chase for the next viral moment would eventually lead the brand.
Comment vous avez trouvé l'équilibre chez Balenciaga pendant ces 10 années?
J'ai fait la thérapie avec un très bon psy dans le 6e arrondissement. Déjà, ça m'a beaucoup aidé et ça continue à m'aider d'équilibrer le stress dans la vie quotidienne d'un designer. Je pense que...
Section 8. Controversy and Conversation. For years, Demna's Balenciaga walked a tightrope, expertly turning controversy into cultural cash. But in November 2022, the brand stumbled and fell hard. It released 2 different ad campaigns that sparked huge outrage and accusations of exploiting children. The first, for a holiday gift collection, had child models holding the brand's teddy bear handbags, but the bears were dressed in what looked like BDSM gear, including leather harnesses and fishnet tops. The images were jarring and deeply disturbing to many. The second campaign, for a collab with Adidas, showed a handbag on a messy desk. Internet sleuths zoomed in on the scattered papers and found one was a printout of a Supreme Court ruling on child pornography laws. The backlash was immediate and vicious. To cancel Balenciaga trended worldwide. Former fans filmed themselves destroying their expensive Balenciaga gear. The brand was condemned across the board. At first, Balenciaga tried to shift the blame, filing a $25 million lawsuit against the production company behind the second campaign. This only made people angrier. The scandal snowballed into the biggest PR crisis in the brand's modern history. Ambassadors like Kim Kardashian were pressured to condemn the brand. Eventually, Balenciaga dropped the lawsuit and issued a series of apologies. Demna himself broke his silence in Vogue, calling the campaigns a grievous error. and admitting he failed to see how creepy the images were. The brand pledged to have greater oversight and take a more mature approach. It was a hard lesson in the dangers of shock value marketing, forcing the brand to confront the line between provocative and irresponsible. Section 9. The Business of Balenciaga. So, did all this controversy and weirdness actually sell clothes? Oh, you better believe it. Under Demna, Balenciaga became a commercial juggernaut for its parent company, Kering. Before the 2022 scandal, Balenciaga was one of Kering's fastest-growing brands. In 2019, the CEO announced the brand was about to break 1 billion euros in annual revenue. By 2021, sales hit nearly 1.2 billion euros. That put it right up there with Kering's other powerhouses like Saint Laurent and Bottega Veneta, just behind the monster that is Gucci. This success was all driven by Demna's hero products, those triple S sneakers, the logo hoodies, the must-have bags. They weren't just fashion items, they were massive money makers. By tapping into streetwear culture, Balenciaga translated its internet fame directly into sales, creating constant demand among a new generation of young, online luxury shoppers. The 2022 ad scandal definitely hurt sales, with Kering reporting a downturn right after, but the brand has since been on a recovery path, focusing more on the craftsmanship of its couture and toning down the shock tactics. The financial power it built during its peak viral years gave it the strength to weather the storm, but it's a perfect case study in the high-stakes, high-reward game of modern luxury. Section 10, the cultural impact and duality. So, we're left with two Balenciagas. First, there's Cristobal's Balenciaga, a temple of couture built on silence, perfection, and fashion as high art. His legacy is the architectural purity of his shapes that changed fashion history forever.